Okay, hello everybody, and thank you for coming today. What a brilliantly positive session to be part of as my first ever Expo talk. As Jerzy said, my name is Peter. I'm the new director of the Conservation Saiga Alliance, and I'm here with my colleague Elena, who runs our Uzbek program. I've called our talk today Hope, Collaboration and Progress, and I want to take you on a 19-year journey from a point where we didn't really have any of these three things to a point now where I'm really happy and proud to say that I think we have them in abundance. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Saiga, this is a Saiga antelope. These three here are females. It's an ancient antelope species, a survivor of the Ice Age, and they have a somewhat unique appearance. Lots of people comment on their nasal structure. This dapper chap here is a male. You'll note that the males have horns, whereas the females don't, and that's going to be a key part of our story going forwards. Saiga are found in a landscape which I would say is comparatively poorly known in the West, and that's the steppe grasslands and semi-deserts of Central Asia. Today, they're found in 5 distinct populations. One in Russia, 3 in Kazakhstan, one of which is transboundary down into Uzbekistan, and a subspecies that's found in Mongolia. And you might be asking, well, with Saiga occupying such a vast range, I mean, Kazakhstan alone is the 9th largest country in the world, where does the need to conserve come from? And this is the part in my presentation where I start to bend the rules a little bit, because WCN are great, and when they're working with their partners to prepare presentations, they give us lots of guidance, and they help us to avoid doing things like giving really technical, academic-style presentations loaded with jargon and graphs. So this is my first graph. And I'm showing this to you not just because I've been looking at it for 17 years, but because this graph tells in 3 distinct parts the story of Saiga conservation very neatly. And it's a story that starts with a catastrophic population decline. When the USSR collapsed in the 1990s, it led to a period of real economic and societal turmoil in Central Asia. There was a lack of employment opportunities, international borders were open for the first time in generations, and those Saiga horns are a valuable asset. They're highly prized in traditional Chinese medicine. And that led to wide-scale rampant poaching of the males, to the point where there were simply not enough males left alive to fertilize the females. So every spring, year after year, Saiga calves just weren't born. And so the numbers crashed from nearly 1 million individuals to just a few thousand in less than a decade. And so, in 2006, with the help of WCN and others, the Saiga Conservation Alliance was founded with the simple mission of stopping the Saiga from going extinct. And to do that, we needed hope and we needed help. And in part 2 of the story, part 2 of the graph that I'm not really supposed to show you, we got that help by partnering with local conservationists doing applied work on the ground, like Elena in Uzbekistan. And we work with governments, we work with academic institutions, we work with funders. And slowly we started to make some progress. Things were going in the right direction. And by 2015, we had a bit of a positive outlook. But then a disease epidemic swept through 2 of our critical populations. And in the space of 3 weeks, we lost 88% of those Saiga in the population. And so you can see a decade further down the line, we were pretty much back to where we were when we started. So my question to you as an audience is, what's a conservation win from this low point? What does part 3 of this story need to tell for it to be deemed a conservation success? Maybe a 20% population increase in the next decade? A lot of species programs would be, well, they bite your hand off for a 20% population increase over a decade. 100% population increase would get us back to the point we were before the disease epidemic. What about if we could get it all the way back to where it was before the USSR broke up? What if we could get back to 1 million individuals? Right, let me show you part 3 of this graph I'm not supposed to show you. 4.1 million Saiga. That's a 2,700% increase in the space of a decade. And if that's not a conservation win, then I don't know what one is. And I really don't have time to get into all the myriad type of activities that we've done to achieve that. Elena can tell you an awful lot about the applied work that she's done on the ground in Uzbekistan with community development programs, an incredibly good environmental education program, all the work they do with rangers to prevent poaching. But I'm going to very briefly highlight something they've done in setting up new protected areas, because I think it's symbolic of the whole Saiga story, where they've taken landscapes which off the bat you wouldn't think would be suitable as protected areas. They've turned them into success stories. When we started in 2006, there were no functional protected areas in the north of Uzbekistan. Now we've got 2, Aralkum and Saigachi, and they cover 20,000 square kilometers. That's about 16 New York cities. Aralkum is located where the Aral Sea once stood. In the 1960s, this was the 3rd largest lake in the world, until irrigation led to the size of the lake decreasing down to just 10% of its historic size in 2007. Former UN General Secretary called this one of the most severe ecological disasters that mankind has ever caused. But from disaster, there's opportunity. And Aralkum now is recovering. There are new novel landscapes being created. This is an open-air experiment in restoration. And these new novel landscapes are rich. Life is coming back. Resurrection Island is another great example of this. It's a former Soviet biological testing site. Doesn't really sound very suitable for being a biological protection site. But the transformation's taking hold. There's 200 species of vertebrates recorded there now. 160 birds, 23 mammals, including Saiga. I think this is a great example of what you can achieve when you persist. You can imagine the amount of work and risk assessments that come with turning a biological weapons testing site into a site that's now an emerging ecotourism destination. So what now? With all that success, can we knock off early and go to the bar for a celebratory drink? Is it job done? Oh, of course not. This is where the real work actually starts to take hold. We have a whole new scenario for Saiga. It's totally different from when our organization was founded, and we have to adapt now to the new challenges that are coming down the pipeline. I don't have time to tell you all of them, but we have things happening like human-wildlife conflict. We've heard from some of the other presenters here today. We have a generation of people living in the landscape who are not used to Saiga being present, and now they have quite literally millions of them stomping all over their hay meadows and eating their crops. It's the first time ever we have people with resentment against the species. And if that's not nipped in the bud, it has the risk of festering into something really, really bad. The Kazakh government's response to that resentment is that they've announced that they're going to start culling Saiga. This year they plan to cull 800,000. In December there'll be a vote at the CITES COP about whether to legalize the international trade in horns again. And I don't have to describe for you how that could potentially allow illegally poached horns to re-enter a legal trade network. Disease remains a threat. You saw that 88% crash in those key populations. Doesn't matter how big your starting population is, losing 88% takes you a long way back from where you were. And in some ways, we're a victim of our own success. When Saiga were critically endangered, our message to funders was incredibly simple. It was an easy narrative. Now it's subtle and it's nuanced, and our funding's dropping off, and the challenges we're faced with are big, multi-partner, multinational challenges that need money, skills, resources to address them. Our challenge is to get people to buy into the fact that what we need to do now is leverage the success that we've achieved rather than abandoning the work to date. Last summer, my soccer club that I support in England won the Premier League, Liverpool. I think they're losing right now as I'm talking, actually. But they won the Premier League, and they could have rested on their laurels. Their team had been proven to be the best. But instead, they went out and they spent £500 million on new players. And because they'd been successful, they could attract some of the world's best. And in a way, that's sort of what we plan to do. We're not going to have £500 million to play with, but we've got something that's just as good. We've got friends in all the right places. All those relationships and collaborations that we forged during the tough times and we nurtured are now gilded with the hallmarks of success. Through Saiga, we're able to do incredible conservation in those vast landscapes because we can go and show that we can be trusted to do that. We are listened to. Saiga are the pathway for conservation that affects truly spectacular landscape-scale programs. We have a partner in Kazakhstan that conserves 5 million hectares. Our network structure, those friends, those relationships, allows us to be very efficient too. And in a landscape where it's comparatively overlooked, let's say, being efficient is key to achieving the success that you want and to moving forward with the ambitious visions that we do have. One thing's for sure going forward, and that's that we won't be resting on our laurels. We will be leveraging success, and we will be moving forward. And I hope that in 10 years' time, I'm back here with a part 4 of my illegal graph, and I'll be able to show you a lot more conservation success to come. So I'd like to just quickly wrap up and say thank you to everyone for listening. 19 years in 10 minutes, 12 minutes is a bit of a whistle-stop tour.